de nuestros seminarios Supply Chain Management and Technology. Estos seminarios los organizamos de parte de la Facultad de Administración de la Universidad de los Andes y en particular en temáticas asociadas a nuestro programa de maestría en gestión de la cadena de suministro. Aprovecho para presentarme, yo me llamo Felipe Reynoso, soy en este momento el director de este programa y me complace mucho el hecho de que tenemos aproximadamente una vez al mes, logramos contar con estos seminarios en donde podemos discutir temas de actualidad relacionados a Supply Chain Management and Technology. Y muchas de estas veces también tenemos la grata oportunidad de contar con invitados que nos visitan desde el exterior. Y justamente el día de hoy nosotros tenemos el placer y el honor de contar con la profesora Elvira Hanneberg, que nos visita desde Suecia. Ella es profesora de administración en la Universidad de Jönköping. Yo no sé muy bien pronunciar el nombre de la universidad, pero estoy seguro que Elvira, nuestra colega, va a hacerlo. Elvira, ella es profesora, ¿no es cierto?, en esta universidad en Suecia, y su investigación se enfoca principalmente en logística humanitaria. Tiene además muy buena experiencia en el sector privado en distintos países, y el día de hoy ella nos va a hablar, ¿no es cierto?, de un tema que es muy interesante, que se refiere a cómo podemos estar preparados, ¿no es cierto?, para todo tipo de emergencia, pero ella nos trae un ejemplo de planificación tipo all hazard, y desde Suecia, un país que nosotros estamos seguros que tiene muy buenas prácticas relacionadas a estos temas. Entonces quisiera, por favor, pedirles que disfruten de esta charla, agradecerte, Elvira, mil gracias por estar acá y adelantarles también que esta conferencia, si no me equivoco, Elvira, la vas a hacer en inglés. Muy buenas noches, Elvira, bienvenida, welcome.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. My name again, and as Felipe has mentioned, is Elvira Kahnberg. I work as an assistant professor in Jönköping University in Sweden. I'm here in a teaching exchange within the frame of the Linnaeus Palme project, which is financed by the Swedish International Development Program for providing Swedish people and Swedish higher education professors and students with exchanges with developing countries, and Colombia has been chosen as a strategic country to exchange with Sweden. So therefore I'm here, and I would like to very much thank you for the opportunity to provide this platform, and so that I can talk about a very, very special area called the humanitarian area, in which I will have the all hazard approach perspective connected to the Swedish emergency preparedness system of Sweden. So I will start with some of the basic issues, just to frame you, to put you in the frame of the discussion. And then I will talk about the threats to civil society, the emergency preparedness, the Swedish way, and then the Swedish emergency preparedness system. And then I would like you to wait with your questions or any discussions or comments, if you have any, that can provide more understanding, or and if I can answer the questions, I will be pleased to do that at the very end of the presentation. So, to the basic issues, there are many issues in the humanitarian area, in the humanitarian field. The humanitarian field is a very multidisciplinary field that mirrors very much the business fields. Everything that you know and have been working with and understand about business is also important in the humanitarian field. However, the humanitarian field is built up of very important principles of humanity, impartiality, and the neutrality. And that's maybe different from the business or any other field that you are in, so that the humanity and impartiality and neutrality will always be guiding everything you do as manager or as medical, as engineer, or anything that you do within the area of the humanitarian response and planning. There are levels: international, national, regional, local, and there are phases within the area that are before the catastrophe, before the emergencies, and during the emergencies, and after the emergencies. And also we are dealing with the policy issues, public, commercial, and doctrines. The doctrine issues are connected to the military doctrines, which are the only ones that have this type of guidance. And these doctrines, however, are not uncomplicated, because the military are not neutral and not non-impartial. The military will be always working on behalf of their countries, of their governments. They will be allowing only guided by the government's instructions. So they will never be neutral in any operation that they do. However, the military have great capacity and capabilities that are necessary to deal with the complex emergencies and responses that we need to face today in modern eras, complex eras. One other aspect of the humanitarian field is the coordination and cooperation, which maybe in paper it sounds very interesting. In paper will be, and in theory, coordination and cooperation is very interesting, very, very much discussed, but in practice, very difficult to achieve. So this coordination and cooperation is not only about the actors within the system, but networks, about the activities, about everything that is done within the system, in the response and preparedness and planning system. Everything that is done in collaboration and cooperation to achieve efficiency and to obtain the ultimate goal of the humanitarian response, which is to save lives. So the difference between business, logistics, or business, the supply chain, and the humanitarian ones are the goals, which is in humanitarian is saving lives, in business is profit. So to increase profit, to focus on profit. But this is not uncomplicated, and this is not exactly, not only that, because everything, even if you're saving lives as the goal, you need to be aware of the cost of things, and money will be always an issue in the area. So to the issue of the all hazards approach. The all hazards approach is a way of thinking, the threats, to organize anything that happens, anything that can harm societies and people during long time. So hazards, to structure these hazards, the all hazards thinking it has been developed. And many developed countries have this type of thinking for organizing and structuring their planning, for managing a different combination of resources and activities and functions when they are planning, when they are responding to any catastrophe, and to manage the movement of products and services that will be the logistics, to organize this part, and to organize elements required from production to the end users, which will be the people in need, and most probably to organize the chaos, which is maybe contradictory. So this is a way of thinking, planning, of thinking, response, of thinking, collaboration, and anything that you do in a whole package, in a whole way, in a structured way, since we have so much to consider. And I will touch upon this area a little later, when I get to the practical areas. But just for you to understand what the all hazards approach is. So another issue of importance for this lecture, for this presentation, is the civil society. Civil society is a concept that has been developed through many years by, for example, Marie Kaldor, which is concerned with the trusted channels in which agreements are created and reproduced. So the trusted channels are part of the civil society, maybe your governments, maybe faculties, maybe channels that are trusted by the society to agree on things that are important for the readiness of society, for the safety of security of societies, for reinforcing collaboration and the trust among people, and also for ensuring the critical mechanism and courses of action when they are needed and in different areas of the system. So civil society, all hazard approach, civil society, those are concepts that I'm going through right now. So the other concept of importance is the emergency preparedness. Since emergency preparedness is mainly the core of this session, and maybe the most important part of the whole humanitarian cycle, then it is related to the political readiness of countries to provide safety and security. This readiness is not an easy issue to achieve, and one way is the emergency preparedness when we are talking about risks and catastrophes and complex emergencies and war. So we are including everything in here, and emergency preparedness will be connecting all these areas also. So the emergency preparedness also involves the planning and involves many elements of the planning that are necessary for the response and the reconstruction, and further than that is the change. If there is anything that needs to be changed in the current planning to the next new planning, in the new preparedness planning, then the change aspect will become along. You will always be changing because we are facing new changes, new threats, new changed threats, and different threats than we did before. So therefore, changes in planning and responding are necessary, and the change is part of this one more phase of the whole emergency response. Also, the emergency preparedness is important because it connects actors, resources, networks in different activities, different types at different levels, different types of planning, different types of levels of planning. So with most probably the emergency preparedness provide the ultimate approach to deal with the political readiness, because it involves all actors of civil society, all elements that are necessary to prepare and respond to any type of hazard that affect the population during long time. And we are talking about complex hazards here. So moving forward to the threats of civil society, then we will be talking about complex emergencies, and which are concerned to emergencies, to happenings, to hazards that are impacting the fundamental values of people during the long time. So we are not talking about things that are happening, car crashes or things that happen daily, because those are under the domain of the police, or if there is sickness or anything like that, there will be other actors responding to that on daily basis. But here we are talking about complex hazards affecting people, like earthquakes, like catastrophes, like floodings or war. Terror attacks are also that type of complex emergencies. So to that, then let's see what's going on. We are in modern era. We are perceiving great challenges and great threats to society's well-being, to people well-being. So we are just recovering from a pandemic, a global pandemic, and with that other types of disease that are developing in different countries, in different regions. We are also experiencing human rights violations. The Ukraine sovereignty has been violated by the Russian government, and violating in that the human rights of the people in Ukraine. Right now, as we speak, a full war is going on in Europe and impacting the whole country of Ukraine, and also with impacts on the rest of Europe, not only in terms of war or armed attacks, but also in terms of economic and energy crisis. We also there is also another war going on, the Syria civil war, which is driving a lot of people out of their countries and as refugees, living in refugee camps in miserable conditions. We are also experiencing very many political instability in many regions of the world, in the US, in Europe, and in Latin America, in Africa, in Asia. We experience also cargo disruptions. The Suez Canal, waterway in Egypt, in which the Ever Given transporter was blocking the whole channel during many weeks, and creating very much damages for supply chain, stopping the transportation of products and technology through the channel. So this, together with the pandemic lockdown, and together with the Chinese lockdown, was creating a lot of impact on supply chains, on logistics companies, and that still, some of them did never recover from these disruptions, but some of them are still struggling to recover from the disruption. We have also catastrophes, natural catastrophes in Afghanistan, in Pakistan, in India, floodings, and also in Afghanistan, not only catastrophe because of the Taliban regime, but also because of nature that is not that favorable for the people in Afghanistan, pushing food insecurity and poverty and inequality. Also, cyber attacks, Internet of Things attacks. We are really dealing with viruses, trojans, worms that are blocking critical infrastructures that are essential for the well-being of the people, the functioning of societies, like banking system, information system, and also information system that has impact on the integrity of people. So all these things, the list could be very much longer than this, and many more examples will be provided if we continue with this. But just to give you some idea on what is going on and how difficult to structure all this type of happenings and insecurity that are there, treating the societies of today. So therefore, maybe the All Hazard approach is an approach to structure all this chaos that is going on. So more to that. So another way of clarifying connecting all the threats. Once we have an all hazard thinking of the threats and the crisis or the insecurities in the world, we have another type of a structure that could connect that to socioeconomic threats. and also environmental threats if we connect the sustainability part of it, and the geopolitical threats if we connect the insecurity, the political insecurity with wars, annexation, commerce, mobilization of products, and economic slowdown like is happening now in Europe. And this also is a way of thinking the threats. Socioeconomic threats, there are coming new and changing threats. Cyber attacks, we never have these cyber attacks. We don't even know how to prepare and respond to these cyber attacks because we never know when they appear. But most probably, young generations and people right now working with these areas will find ways to support the managers in emergency planning to deal with these attacks. Terror, migration, natural disaster, and all other types of things are part of the socioeconomic because they are impacting the economic growth of societies. So, to the developed countries now, developed countries are also, even if developed countries, we are talking about countries with stable democracies, quite developed, educated societies, very structured systems, and also very rich in resources and technology. This type of societies are also impacted by these threats. We are also perceiving these threats in Sweden and in Europe, in the European Union. Threats that are external and that are worldwide, but are also threats that are socio-political, that are impacting the economic and the security and safety of the people in Europe and in Sweden. We are also perceiving economic growth risks and making countries, even though their richness and their stability, making these countries vulnerable to other impacts. And also we are right now having other impacts because of the war in Russia, in Ukraine, about the energy crisis. All these parts of the threats to developed countries are canalized in the goals of the emergency preparedness of these countries. So with this background, then you see that not even if you are living in a developed country or an undeveloped or developing country, the threats are the same, and the problem is quite the same and quite as huge as it is for everyone. So why do we need to know about these things? We need to. Why do we need to do this? I think one of the answers, and maybe you might have other answers, is just we need to understand what is going on. We need to understand and structure the type of threats that are there today, to us, to our children, to the coming generations. What happens from before, maybe we have still dealing with some of this reconstruction. But what is happening right now will have impact on generations ahead. So therefore, maybe it's better to start understanding what is happening and how we can structure and start working with some kind of preparation for dealing with these disruptions. Also, we need to understand to deal with all types of threats. So we cannot only deal with war, because we have war will generate other types of problems in societies: poverty, insecurity, people health will be affected, and many other things. So we need to also prepare and respond to all types of effects and hazardous effects on societies. to be able to develop policies, to be regulations, to update what is there, and to maybe provide other open up for other ways of collaboration, other ways of understanding, coordinating for the safety and the security readiness of countries. And with the goal of protecting civil society and to ensure actors, to ensure resources, and to protect the critical infrastructures that are important, critical services or infrastructures that are important for the functioning of the society. With not transportation, or with not banking system, or with not medical system, then people might not be able to function properly. So, so let's continue with the emergency preparedness. So now we connect I like to connect the emergency preparedness and the all hazard approach in one connection to show you what I mean with the all hazard approach. So connecting this back to the preparedness of the countries, of the developed countries, then the all hazard approach has been used for many years now in Canada, in Sweden, in Australia, and the Nordic countries. Most of them has the all hazard approach thinking in their planning of emergency preparedness. So just to this type of thinking, this type of preparedness will involve the planning of essential elements that are necessary for the response operation. So when the planning will be, when all these elements will be in place, the response operation will run as planned. But if the planning is lacking any elements, essential elements in its structure, then the response operation will be also lacking. So this is very important part of the whole emergency preparedness, the planning, because it's in planning that you can make changes, it's in planning that you can connect new actors, it's in planning that you can change structures or anything that is necessary for meeting the new challenges. Also the mitigation for reducing the effects of the risk that would happen. The preparedness will also involve the response operations to anything and the reconstruction of the societies or regions that after anything, after a catastrophe or a war or anything that happened. The reconstruction part is part of the whole system. So you have to think the whole loop so that you can plan for response, reconstruction, and mitigation, response and reconstruction, and change. So the emergency preparedness, the all hazard approach preparedness will also target the readiness of countries, because here we are targeting safety and security. The safety part will be connected to the more civilian part of the preparedness, and the security will be connected to the more military part of the society. So also the all hazard approach preparedness will provide structure for different levels of plannings. The tactical plannings to coordinate the response operation, the strategic planning to delimit elements in the planning, in permanent or dormant structures, and also the operational planning to safeguard essential supplies whenever needed. So in this planning and all hazard approach, we are connecting actors. So the civil society actors that I mentioned, the civil society is one way of thinking all society, all people in society, and they have different roles. They speak on behalf of victims. Some of them use the power of words. Some of those are engaging in communication and information. Others are dealing with this when the civilian order is threatened. Some of them are profit and non-profit, and others are working in voluntary basis, and others are working with the policies and regulation or responsible for those, and others are involved when the national sovereignty is threatened, which is the military. All these actors, independent of their role, they will always need to coordinate. And this is one of the biggest things that I was talking about at the heart of the humanitarian response of the humanitarian field. The coordination of all these actors, of civil society actors. This is a huge and very challenging area. So putting together military forces with commercial entities, networks, supply chains, NGOs, internal NGOs, and media, think tankers, and all these type of actors, voluntary sector, into one planning. It is not an easy task, I can tell you. So, but this needs to be someone. They need to start. They need to be structures to do this coordination, and also they need to train this coordination. It's not only about agreeing on the coordinating, but also to train the coordination, to know who has what resources and how they are used, and when they are needed, how they will go together and use these resources in any response operation that appears. So, having all this background and theory and concepts, now I like to talk about the Swedish way. The Swedish way is very interesting. Sweden is a country very known for its democracy structures, for many things, for technology, for its fast development. After the Second World War, Sweden was neutral, and with this advantage, Sweden never became destroyed, and this gap gave Sweden an advantage to develop its economy. So very fast in the 50s, Sweden became a developed country with a very stable economy, technology, production, export, and Sweden became a developed country with high education, with a welfare system providing education, medical care, everything that people needed to develop, to provide, to have a good life. Sweden is a very large country with 10.5 million people around that. And most of the people are concentrated in the south, living in the southern part of the country. So the north part of the country is quite empty, and quite empty. But most of the people live in the southern parts of the country. Sweden is a constitutional monarchy. And the political power lies on the parliament and the government. The parliament is called the Riksdag, and it has 349 members of parliament in a single chamber. So they are very, very much powerful. They're very powerful. The head of the state, however, is His Majesty King Carl Gustaf XVI, and the head of the throne is Princess Victoria. So the education system in Sweden is compulsory of the first 10 years, and then about one third of the population go further to the high school, to higher education. There are several. The official language is Swedish, and there are other English. Everybody, most. I could say that everybody speaks English also. So the most important export goods are vehicles, machines, pharmaceuticals, chemicals, electronics, minerals, food products, clothes, furniture. The biggest cities of Sweden are Stockholm with now 1 million people, and Gothenburg with 500,000, and Malmö with 350,000 people about. 63% of the Swedish landscape is forest. So forest is a great deal in Sweden, and therefore many production based on wood are very famous in Sweden. Furniture, IKEA was one of these companies that use the potential. We have also great production of paper mass because of the forest. Employment rate between 50 and 65. You get once you are 65, you can go take pension for life. So Sweden is a developed country because of its GDP, but not only because of that. Sweden is social and economic is because of the Swedish socioeconomic and political stability. Sweden has been known as the Swedish model because of this stability and this ambition to have an equal system, an equal society, educated equal society. Sweden has been also known as mediator for peace and agreements of peace around the world. So becoming part of the middle powers. We have the superpowers, but the other ones that are not superpowers are middle powers, generating and integrating in diplomatic relations towards global safety and security. So the Swedish system is also has worked for peace and democracy over more than 50 years in a neutral way, way of thinking, a way of being political. So since Sweden has been neutral for many years up until today, then this has made Sweden very famous because of its neutrality. However, things changed and very fast. With the invasion of Russia on Ukraine, the Swedish neutrality is now compromised. So Sweden has applied for membership in the NATO Union, to be part of as a member of the NATO, which that meaning that the neutrality is avoided. Neutrality that we have over 50 years disappear with once Sweden being accepted as a member of the NATO. This is a great thing for Sweden. This is a great thing for Swedish people, for the old generation, and also for the new generation, because it will be a different way of behaving, thinking of security and safety. Maybe now we need to provide to support other responses, armed responses, and also maybe to accept that other countries can help Sweden in case Sweden will be attacked by other nations. Sweden has two different systems. The safety and security is built on two different systems. The one is the total defense, and the other one is the civil defense and the emergency preparedness. The civil defense and the emergency preparedness are more connected to the civil happening, civil crisis, civil emergencies that responding to this emergency, the planning and preparedness to this type of emergencies. The total defense is more oriented to the armed attacks emergencies, and when the Swedish sovereignty will be attacked, will be in danger, then the total defense will come in place under the military leadership. However, Sweden is structured in three ways: the local, the regional, and the national level. And the biggest part of the structure is the local level, composed of 290 municipalities with autonomous regimes. That means that when you, in elections, you always will vote for the 3 levels. So you will, everyone in the local municipal responded for the local municipalities are elected by the public. So at the regional level is the same, and also at the national levels. So these 290 municipalities will be coordinating with the Home Guard. The military part will be coordinating at that level. At the regional level, we have 21 county government and 21 county regions, and 4 military regions that are coordinating their preparedness together. And at the national level, we have the central authorities, the armed forces, and the government that are in which coordination and for the preparedness are performed. So this is how Sweden is structured, and this is how the civil-military coordination is thought. However, Sweden is, I told you, Sweden is been known for its democracy and equality, for equality not only economic equality among the people, but also for the gender equality. Women and men are equal. And I would say that we are almost there, also in terms of wages and responsibilities and also achievements. Trusted among other developed countries because of the democracy structures that we have, democratical structure, and inspiration for other welfare states, as the Swedish welfare is still working well, and also for providing the security and good lifestyle and standard for people in Sweden. We have with the Swedish system is considered as a very strong state and independent civil society. This independent civil society means that people are educated. They know when they choose, they do choices. They have choices, and based on education, based on knowledge. So we expect many companies are testing their products on Swedish society, because they will know that if Swedish consumers are testing their products and accepting or not accepting, that will be a good signal for them, because people in Sweden will know what to choose. However, things are not perfect. We are having now changes and developments on government towards regulatory functions, meaning a greater dependency on other actors, and that's what, for example, the NATO alliances, if that becomes a factor, which I think it will. Low confidence of the public sector, which appear also in connection to the response to the COVID-19 pandemic. So people, the system was untrained and prepared. All things are there, all planning, all resources are there, but the system is untrained. So that's the same for the military system. Since we haven't had war for 200 years, the military system, the Swedish military system, is untrained. So therefore, people is confidence on these systems are decreasing, and also low confidence on the military. So that is because of this. This is what I'm saying. So the Swedish emergency preparedness then is concerned when anything that is treated in Sweden. Anything that can have impacts on the Swedish safety and security, anything that has to do with the sovereignty of the country. So wars, the Russian attack on Ukraine is a threat to Sweden, and because of the closeness of the country, that is one reason, but because of the effects of the war on the rest of Europe and also Sweden. Not least the energy crisis that this war is causing to everyone in Europe. Here I mapped some of the main crises that Sweden has had through time, and also just to see how these have been, where those are happened. So you see that if you compare with any other country, maybe we are quite safe in Sweden. However, we have a terror attack in 2017, which is very, very difficult to accept. And due to this terror attack, then policy was changed. And for the first time, the police and the military were working together in a civil response. So this was maybe a very good paradigm for the civil-military relations. And also many infrastructure breakdowns. We have very many cyber attacks right now, attacks on the infrastructures that are banking system and other structures. And we need to work on that type of preparation. So the emergency preparedness of Sweden is just involve all the planning elements of and all actors of civil society. When I mean actors of civil society, that means everyone, the organized actors and the non-organized actors. The non-organized actors are the public, everyone that is independent, anyone of you that are listening. We are not organized, but if you are working in an organization or are working in a voluntary form or anything, then we are organized actors. These are organized actors, as they will have responsibilities and demand requirements for supporting the system in anything that happens. So the Swedish system, the all hazard approach system, I did this frame for you just for showing how the the all hazard approach system is connected. The emergency preparedness and the civil defense will be connected to the military defense to support the military defense when the total defense is in question, when the total defense is required. And that means when Sweden's sovereignty is in danger. But when anything else, when we talk about any other threat that is more civilian kind of terror attack was something in between. Maybe we are talking about other threats like migration, like organized crime, these type of things. Those are more civilian type of threats. Then the civil defense is in charge, and the emergency preparedness system together. And then the military support will come if they are necessary. So, however, the civil defense, it is not easy to be in the civil defense, to create this civil defense thinking, to achieve this civil defense system, because of the challenges of concerning with the mixing different actors from different backgrounds on different system or ways of working and thinking. Also because when the civilians need to coordinate with military, then there are also challenges when dealing with doctrines, civilian and commercial regulations. There are clashes that are difficult to manage. So they need to train this system, need to train these relations, need to be trained before, and regulations need to be in place so that these actors can come in place for the civil defense. Also, the combination of civil and military authorities and the management, the authority and how they manage the systems. The military will have the chain of command, and the civilian will have a more consensus leadership. And these two types of leadership will also clashes if they are not trained. And also the development of civil the military relations. Still, even if it's challenging, is important. In developed countries, we can talk because we have democracy, so civil military are part of the civilian of the civil society. But in countries where democracies are weak, the military will never be neutral and never be trusted. So they will work on behalf of the governments, or therefore their resources will only be used in case as the last resource. But in developed countries, the military have very many resources, very many structures, very many potential, and creating the civil military coordination is a capability that is necessary for the safety and security of Sweden, at least. Here, the Swedish society actors. Those are classic, for example, NGOs, movements, humanitarian actors. Those are experts, think tanks, commissioners. Those are the media, the radio, the TV, the print media, websites, anything that provides media. The defense, they are military, home guard. The commercial, the industry, business, anything that has to do with providing services and items to people. And the voluntary, there are military, NGOs, church, and many others. And this is how the civil society in Sweden is organized. So I like to take the opportunity to present the voluntary sector in Sweden, as 90 to 90% of the Swedish population is engaged in any kind of voluntarity. There are about 92,500 voluntary organizations registered. They were registered in 2019. That is quite remarkable. Voluntary organizations, regardless of activities, amounted the same year 232,000 organizations involving culture, education, recreation, religious, labor, defense, business, anything. About 14 areas of voluntarity there is in Sweden. These voluntarity are very important to provide the system with efficient resources, efficiently and capable resources, in a very efficient way. So the voluntary sector in Sweden is a very big, important part of the whole civil society resources that are considered always in the emergency preparedness. So also the Swedish structures are organized in ordinances with laws and ordinances connected to the economic security, dangerous substances, geographical responsibilities, protection, rescue services, technical infrastructure, transportation, and several others. There are about 12 of these things, these structures that are providing structure to what it is important to protect. And connecting back to the more organized conditions that we are to organize conditions in the emergency preparedness, then we have levels, the national, regional, and local levels, as I presented. However, in Sweden, we have other type of principles in the emergency preparedness, which is the responsibility, which is connected to the authorities that are responsible for the area in which that are required when something happens. For example, if it's a terror attack, then the responsibility would be on the police. So this principle of responsibility is applied to organize also the response operations, the planning and the response. The geographical is also connected here, and the proximity, those are together. because when anything happens in Sweden, then the closest agency or the closest actor that is to this area will be will be the first response, answering to the organizing the response and answering to the crisis. And the similarity, which is actually considering that most of the responses will be run in the same way, and using the experiences of the early responses. So this is some kind of principles that they use in the emergency preparedness planning, and that they can try to also apply when they are responding to crisis, to any crisis. The phases also, before we have the planning, before anything happens, the preparedness, we have the transition, some kind of training or changes that we do, because changes in democratic structures take time. Changes of policy, for example, it could take years. So this transition between this request of change and the actual change, the transition period will need to be managed. So this is a phase in the process, and the ongoing when the crisis is there, responding, and after when the reconstruction is necessary. A reform system. It is necessary because nothing is perfect, and because many things are happening. So we need to reform the system. We need to also move forward for what is necessary, for what is part of the emergency preparedness. Maybe I have to rush because I see the time is running, but this is maybe the way forward, that the Swedish system requires actors, resources, and activities in the planning. The way forward is to agree on the type of threat that we have. So this fragmented threat picture is a challenge also for Sweden. To provide a structure to the planning in of different critical infrastructures. The coordination is still a problem and a challenge. Regulations, inconsistent and policy developments. The actors, many actors coordinating, and also the development of the relations. Now, discussion, questions, and excuse me because I ran out of the time. So, but I take some of the questions at least if there are some.
Thank you very much, Elvira. Very interesting summary of the Swedish vision. I was surprised with one particular information regarding voluntary service. It's amazing how Swedish are compromised with voluntary service. Why do you think the fact that most Swedish people, they are voluntary in different tasks, is so important for this process that you're presenting to us?
So do you mean why do I think Swedish people engage in voluntary basis?
No, what is the consequence of having so many voluntaries, for instance, doing these emergency processes?
Yeah, the consequences, maybe the not consequences, but maybe the potential and the challenges. That is what you maybe want to phrase, because the potential is that we have many trained people in different areas involved on voluntary basis. So that means that people are always doing something. They are not only looking, they are not sitting still anywhere, but they are working, they are engaging, they are developing their skills in different ways. So they will be able to be used in case we need them in any crisis. The challenge, however, is to organize and to create some kind of a structure. Because of the voluntarity issue, you cannot demand that they do these things. They cannot it is a challenge. But of course, if you have the emergency preparedness focus on the individuals, then the voluntarity will be part of this individual's engagement in the society. And if I'm trained to fly airplanes, maybe if that's my hobby and I do it voluntarily, maybe I can do it also for helping in a response operation, for example.
So true, so true. We have a question here from Juan Salamanca. He's asking, how do you think academia could be closer to humanitarian logistics challenges in countries with, for instance, armed conflict?
Yeah. The humanitarian logistics is a very, very wide area, however, very new to many academics. And whenever I talk about humanitarian logistics, I always encourage my students to please understand this. Please, we need logisticians, we need people that want to make the change, to work for values beyond profit. So this academia has a great responsibility to create understanding among the young people that are taking these courses, that are engaging in these areas and providing guidance for these students. Also, maybe also going beyond making an impact on society, maybe get out of the academic boundaries and try to put these theories in more practical context so that people in companies, people in workplaces can understand the value and the importance of engaging and understanding what is going on around the world. So yes, the academia has a role to play in this, and the academia, I would say, is a civil society actor that need to engage.
So true. Voy a cambiar a español también para aprovechar en caso de que algunos de nuestros estudiantes estén acá presentes el día de hoy, que justamente Elvira va a estar con nosotros en una visita que vamos a hacer el día 28 de octubre al Centro Nacional de Rescate de Personal. Me imagino que allí también vamos a poder aprender un poco más de estos temas, cómo estos temas se están gestionando en Colombia, que es un país que yo creería que en temas de logística humanitaria tenemos bastante que aprender de Suecia, pero al mismo tiempo también es un país con muchos desafíos, ¿no es cierto?, humanitarios y logísticos, con lo cual también podemos, seguramente las personas que van a visitar Catán pueden aprender mucho también de lo que está pasando acá y de lo que se hace acá. Sí, Elvira, no tengo más preguntas en el chat. Quisiera aprovechar nuevamente para agradecerte. Thank you very much for being with us here, for visiting Colombia. We are going to have more than one touch point with you during these days. I hope you are having a good time here. For us, always interesting to learn about good practices across different countries. And I just would like to invite you to give us one final message to inviting our colleagues, our students, our peers to how they can, find out more about, how do you think they can find out more about this, these emergency protocols and these emergency strategies in a country like Colombia? Do you know anything about this? Yeah.
Yes, I don't know how exactly, where and in what ways, but I can say that through academia, we can provide understanding in academic frames, but also there are other organizations in societies, and I might mean also Colombia. There are organizations organizing the emergency preparedness of Colombian people, and of course, Colombia is 3-4 times bigger than Sweden, and maybe also difficult to organize in these type of structures. But I think that my suggestion is that reach out to these organizations, to voluntary centers, to police, to these established organizations, to understand what they do and how they do it, and in what ways you can engage maybe in anything that that is important for the safety and security of Colombia. Read
Surely.
about what is going on and engage, I will say, at any level, in any form, but do it.
Thank you very much, Elvira, for that call. I think it's very important for us to engage at different levels in these challenges. I would like to wish you a very good night. Again, voy a cambiar a español. A todas las personas que están acá, les agradecemos mucho por estar presentes. Recuerden que estos webinars los hacemos con una periodicidad mensual. Y seguramente para el próximo mes vamos a tener algo muy interesante también para compartir con ustedes. Elvira, muchas gracias por estar acá nuevamente. Espero nos veamos muy pronto. Y a todos ustedes, una feliz noche.
Yeah. Thank you very much and good night.
Gracias.
Okay.